I was on a podcast earlier today with Dr. Nantara called The Bold PhD. She asked me this question: how do you turn a research paper into a great presentation? And I realize now, reflecting on the answer I gave her, I only told her a third of the story. So what I want to do now is share with you the whole story. And the whole story has three parts. Okay. The first part, this is the part I shared with her, is about structure. Background, methodology, results, discussion, the way we traditionally structure a STEM research paper, that's not the way to build a presentation. So that's the first problem. The second two problems, and these are the two I didn't share today on the podcast. One is it's not a test of your knowledge. You're not actually, if you're a PhD or a postdoc, you're not actually a student anymore. So this presentation space, this is not an oral test. You need to change that. And then the third one is about tone. So mostly in a STEM journal article written space, we're trained to have this objective tone. Objective isn't a tone for a great presentation. Objective is a tone for a robot. So let's take these one at a time. Think about that structure, right? Background, methodology, results, and discussion. Why do we do a paper that way? It's kind of like a filing cabinet, right? Background, methods, results, discussion. We know where each thing is. And that's actually exactly why we write a paper that way. We write a paper because we're not actually writing a novel. We're not actually writing something someone will read. We're writing something someone will data mine. They'll go find the information they need, and they know exactly where to go find it. And that's why we build a research paper the way we do. But think about this for a moment longer. How do you read it? That data mining, right? You read the abstract, and then you go and you find the thing that you're interested in. That's your clue about how to build a great presentation. You build a great presentation by starting with something people will be interested in after hearing a quick overview, a quick introduction, a quick abstract, like why are you doing this? What are you doing? Why are you doing this? Right? But like short version, so people understand what's going on. And then what question will they have? What will they be interested in? If you were a reader, where would you go? Go there. And then follow the path. Follow the path from there. It's simple. I call this answers and questions, A and Q. Okay? So your abstract is the answer, the intro, right? That's the answer to giving people a general understanding. Start someplace interesting. Give people a general understanding of what you're doing. Let people get grounded, 30, 45 seconds, 60 seconds top. Let people get grounded and let people understand why it's important. And then think about, okay, I've just given you an answer to what my talk is going to be like. That's your initial question. What's this talk going to be like? Now I've given you the answer to that. What am I doing? A little bit about how I'm doing it. Now what questions do you have? What questions? What are you most curious about? It might be a result. It might be a methodology. It might be something in the discussion. Go there next. Go there next. And then when you read that part, if you were reading a journal article, you'd read that part, and then you'd go somewhere else. So tell people the part of the story. And then think about, okay, where are they going to want to go next? And then take them there. And now what you have is you have a naturally unfolding trajectory. You have a naturally unfolding flow to your presentation. You're triggering questions, and then you're answering them. Voila, there you have it. That's the structure you need. Not background, methodology, results, discussion. Not the way people write. Not the filing cabinet version. But the way people read. The way people actually would consume it if you gave them the choice. You're the presenter, so you get to make the decision about how to do it. You get to make the flow decision. We can't all, we got 20, 50, 100 people in the room. We have to make a flow decision for them, and that's what you get to do as a presenter. So that's the structure part. That's the part I talked with on the Bold PhD podcast. And Dr. Nantero, it was interesting, Gertrude, she said to me, she said, doesn't this make people nervous? Doing something differently than the way normally? Don't you get pushback from people? I said, yeah, of course I do. And that's why I'm on the Bold PhD podcast, right? Because you need to be bold in order to do things a little differently, in order to be more effective, in order to be successful. So let's talk about the other two things that I didn't talk about, but I could have, and I want to share with you here today. So the second one is this test piece, right? We're used to a presentation either being a test of us, our knowledge, an oral exam at the end of a class, right? Or preparation for a test. We're in the front of the room and we're lecturing as a professor, or you're sitting in an audience listening to a lecture by a professor. Those are both test-based spaces. Either you're being given a test, or you're prepping people for a test, or you're being prepped for a test. None of those are true. You're not a student anymore. You're a researcher. You haven't been a student since you were a master's, or you haven't been a student since you did your undergraduate. You're a PhD researcher, or you're a postdoc researcher. This isn't a test. And nobody listening to you is going to be given a test about what you said, right? So we need to get out of this test of knowledge space and realize that this is an opportunity for you to share something that you understand with an audience, right? Because it's not a test, there's no rubric and there's no mandatory requirement about what you have to include. You get to make those decisions. You get to make those decisions based on the journey through the information. We were just talking about that, right? The journey through the filing cabinet. Based on the journey through the filing cabinet, you could decide what to include. Now, if you want to make your presentation great, you have to figure out a way that the thing you decide to include is not only something you want to include, but something that the audience will find some value in. Now, as audiences, as academic audiences, depending on whether you're doing this talk within or beyond academia, we find value in all sorts of different things. It's not just give me something I can use for my own work, although that's a good place to find value. Is there something here that people can use in their own work? But it's not the only place, right? We find value just in learning something new. We find value in learning something that in it of itself has the potential to provide value, right? So think about what it is that you want to share. Think about it as being of value. I talk a bit about the presentation space, right? And in the presentation space, you are presenting your research. That's one piece. The second part of it is that this is a present. This is something of value for your audience. That's the second part. And the third part takes us to the third piece of the puzzle that you need to change if you want to do great presentations. It's about tone. It's about presence, presentation, the third meaning, present, to be present, right? Typically, the tone, that STEM journal article, tone, objective. We're presenting information, we're giving people information, we're letting them decide what to do with it. We're keeping ourselves a bit distant from it, right? It's fine for an article. It's fine for a journal article. In fact, it's often exactly correct. But it's not for a presentation. As I said earlier, objective is a robot, not a human being. Objective is monotone, and we know the one thing we can't listen to in a presentation is monotone. A monotone voice just doesn't work, right? So we need to step away from being objective, right? One of the things I like to share with people, one of the things I like to talk about, get you to realize that the difference between a journal article and you presenting the information, not all of it, but presenting some of the information in a journal article, the information you decide is important or you decide you want to share with that particular audience on that particular day. The difference between those two things is not only structure, but it's also presence. It's also you. You're there. So we want to get to know you. We want to hear you. We want to hear about where you struggled. We want to hear about what you cared about. We want to hear those tone shifts. We want to feel like we're in the room with you when you're talking about how you did that particular experiment, or what it was like when you saw those results and you were surprised by them or you were excited by them. We want to hear that. We want to hear that because we're human. This is a presentation with an audience. The opportunity for a speaker and an audience is to create a human connection. But that human connection happens because you're present. That human connection doesn't happen because you're objective and distant. That human connection happens because you reveal a bit behind the scenes. You reveal a bit about how you felt along the way. You reveal a bit about the struggle. You reveal a bit about the excitement. And that's contagious, and that creates an experience, and that creates a great presentation. So those three things. Don't use background methodology results discussion as a structure. That's not a structure. That's a filing cabinet. Well, it is a structure, but it's not an effective structure for sharing information. It's an effective structure for filing information. When we share it, we want to go on a bit of an adventure. So tell us something interesting and then take us on a bit of an adventure through the rest of it in a naturally unfolding way. Right? Remember, it's not a test. It's not a test. You're not a student anymore. And remember, objective is a tone for a robot, not a tone for a human. Or a tone for a paper, but not a tone for a presentation. And the cool thing is when you do these things, yes, it's going to take a little bit of boldness. Yes, it's like you need to be willing to not do things like everybody else does them. It's going to be a little different. You're going to stand out, but you're going to stand out in a good way because you're going to have given a great presentation. You're going to give a presentation that people remember. And not only that, people are going to feel like they know you. People are going to feel like they've learned a little bit about you. So when you're out there at the coffee bar later, or you're out there having a croissant, or you're out there getting cheese and crackers, and people are going to feel like they know you, and they're going to come up to you, and they're going to want to talk to you. People are going to come and connect with you. People are going to ask you what you're doing next after you finish your postdoc, if you're ready to be a tenure track position as a professor, or people are going to ask you if you're interested in an industry job when you finish your PhD, and they're going to feel like they know you. They're going to feel like you have a presence and a confidence and a mastery of your work. They're going to know that you did something important, and they're going to want to be part of it. And that's when doors open. That's the power of presenting. Presenting will open doors for the rest of your career. And if you get effective at this, if you become one of the presenters that people remember, if you become someone that up there on stage, I feel like I've gotten to know a little bit, and now I want to talk to more, that's what opens doors for the rest of your career. So get out there, be bold, do great presentations. Now you have part of the path to get there. And if you want help doing this, check out in the comments. I have a course I run. I have, there are more resources. If you're not subscribed to the channel, certainly do that, because I talk here a lot about different aspects of this and share reflections and stories from my own life and my own journey doing this, and from the journey of people that I've coached. And you can do this. You can do this. And when you learn to present, doors open that you never imagined possible, and that's what I hope for you. Cheers.